Hey, Leo. This will be your tarot sportscast for April 2021. This is a place where we ask the question, what sport? And of course, the answer is the game of life, right? And we are in it to win it. I'm sure you agree. The starting bell has already rung, so why don't we go grab our seats and enjoy the show? Let's begin with the Yang line. Well, Leo, let's talk sports. Here's you, sitting in the middle in your Six of Swords self. And it's implying that you're a bit of a veteran of war, of struggles that you've overcome one way or another. And where you're going is towards, in the month of April, there's an idea here that you're going to have to communicate with a part of yourself that is somewhat akin to your nature and harmonious with your nature, but not necessarily familiar. You're used to being a Leo. Excellent. But this is Mercury in Aquarius. So you're needing to check 180 degrees across the way on the astrological chart to your counterpart, the balance of Leo and Aquarius. So living in your world, you're needing to go out into the opposite of your world in many ways, the opposite. So if you just look at one of the things that happens in that game is that many Leos, at least that I know, their natural tendency is it's all about them, and not that they're proud or self-centered or egotistical. It's just how their bearing is. It's just how they are. They flourish in that kind of energy. It's a fiery energy. It's ruled by the sun. I mean, go figure, right? And Aquarius is, of course, all about the collective, all about the accomplishment of tasks through the group, right? So now, what that takes you to is, being in April and in this modality. When I was meditating a little bit about the Leo reading, what I got was an image of you're pretty wide open for input, suggestions, ways to be, ways to go that you're open to in the month of April. Cool. So what you get, first of all, is you get to walk into the world where these wands want to be a gateway. They want you to choose and decide. And let's face it, also, this is the Mars in Aries card. So that's a lot of fire. And fire. It's in your nature. It's in your gut. It's in your soul. Okay, fine. And it's asking you to make the choice. It is your choice. You don't have to walk through, right? But if you choose to walk through, that will take you to new territory. And maybe that's the whole appeal. Just pull you through and go to new territory. Why? Because if you're wide open, that means there's a sense within you that you are intuitively aware that out there is adventure, new discoveries, things that will stimulate your juices, and that's what you want. And look who's waiting for you. We talked about needing to go to air? Well, here's the Queen of Air. She's also Aries, right? So but swords are the air quality, right? So I would say that it's probably a good idea to know both sides of the equation. Know her in her airness. I mean, just if you encounter in April a counterpart that appeals to you, the way, stay open. I mean, to start to close down into old patterns doesn't serve you, right? So know her in her airy qualities and know yourself in your fiery qualities, and know that she also has fiery qualities. So it's a wonderful, game of balancing forces that are somewhat familiar. I mean, there's the diametrically opposed Aquarius and Leo is fun energy. That's why, it's predicted by many astrologers that a partnership between an Aquarius and a Leo will be well balanced. So your pleasurable path is laid out before you. Just walk through the gate. Yin, looking at you, and wow. So in some ways, I mean, you're sitting here immersed in a soup of awareness and feelings. And what your natural feeling is the Page of Cups. That's who you're identifying as somebody perhaps that you have wanted to be with always, that this was the image that you've carried, and that's what you want. That's what your heart wants, which speaks differently than your mind. And it's an image. And I think April is saying, get ready to consider other images where you blend them together. I mean, when you look at what you got here, you got three dudes that are standing there, and they're there for your consideration, where you can walk into a cloak, put on a cloak, and that cloak is this kind of feeling. This cloak is the Page of Cups. This cloak is the Seven of Wands. And this cloak is the Page of Swords. Okay. Once again, we're looking at that divinely inspired balance point between air and fire. There's this guy. And in fact, the experience is going to be different with all of these. Here, you're going to get somebody that can douse your flame, Leo Yin, a little bit. Maybe you have looked in the past to partners that would, by representing water, that they would be somehow a mediator for your fire, so that you could just go around blasting your fire all you wanted, and you could count on them to sprinkle a little bit of water on there and keep the fire down in certain ways, in certain senses. And now your first consideration is, what if I get somebody else in my life who is fire also? What could happen? Well, there could be an interesting complexity, because it certainly is going to be more complex than fire and water. That's pretty straightforward. Fire has got kind of dynamics within it that are, well, this fire represents, I mean, you both represent the same element, but you're both blasting out your element being fire, but there are different nuances and different details within that. So, but consider that cloak, right? So put on the cloak of, or you may be encountering somebody that is fire, but when you do, walk in with the beginner's mind. That's probably a good key for your whole Yin Leo line, is to walk into this month of April in total with the beginner's mind. And once again, I mean, that feeling of being open to things was not just for Yang. When I was meditating on all of Leo, right? So if you're open, then allow the openness to bring things in. And if they're not comfortable, you don't have to keep them. If they are comfortable, you can determine why that feels good. And whereas the other one definitely did not feel good. And ultimately, you could very well be headed for an experience with an air sign, who's also a beginner's mind kind of guy, right? Maybe an air sign that is also in the month of April experiencing the openness to new territory, new ideas. And by having practiced by putting on this cloak and this cloak, when you get to this cloak and you realize that this is air and fire create a wonderful fine-tuning quality. I mean, if you tune, you got a fire, and if you tune the amount of air that goes into the fire, just like a damper in a firebox or a fireplace or a wood-burning stove, if you tune the amount of air, it controls the whole environment, the amount of fire. So it's a really adventurous kind of an approach in April for you, Leo. Now, over all this, both Yang and Yin, we've got an environment, and this is our playing field for the month, our playing field. We are going into the game, right? And so what's the weather in the stadium, let's say, today? Well, the weather here is one of aligning yourself with the forces of nature in their springtime magnificence. And I would partner with that 100%. Aside from all other things, grab onto with your internal spiritual arms, embrace as much as you can with the springtime juices that flow, with the things that happen in the earth that she is the guiding light towards, the mistress of that whole energetic world. That's good weather, right? And the sun will be shining with good weather. Sun is your planet, your star. So, your obstacle, a possible obstacle, being the Justice card. I also enjoy the idea here, and it came strongly to me when I looked at this card in the obstacle position, the idea of the dishes in the scales that are held by Justice. The dishes are connected by a bar. And that bar has a dual purpose that is elegant and poetic. And that is, the bar both keeps the dishes separate, but it connects them together, right? If you look closely at the bar here, you'll see that that's exactly what it does. And it's an important thing to be able to have both dynamics happening at the same time. Together in that they're connected and in a sense one entity, but separated, kept separate, right? That's what I think wants to be, tackled not in an obstacle like a stone wall standing in your path kind of obstacle, but rather a little keynote that sits in the back of your brain that you bring to every moment and every decision that you can possibly do as you experience the wonderment of the springtime energy. Your asset is the Fool. Now, let's talk about the Fool. I invite you to take your Fool, your inner spiritual ally, the Fool, because that's where he's sitting in this reading, and put him in your back pocket. Don't forget he's there. And pull him out when you need him. And know when you pull him out, you're pulling out power. So the big thing is don't abuse it. Don't abuse the power, but use it. Use it, don't abuse it. And lastly, I'm getting the impression that whatever this represents, being the World card at the potential outcome of your April, Leos, what's there is something significant. Yeah, we know the world is completion and, like this, the complete balance and all that happy harmony. Yeah, we know. But do we also know that in order for that to be complete, you're going to be confronted with perhaps a sense of grieving? Because something's this is what came to me through this card. Something's gonna have to be let go. You're gonna have to leave some part of yourself, your nature, your former self, your former beliefs behind. Let them go. And the idea, I think that the way to really dance the dance of the world through that completion moment is to never forget that that element is there. That element of an ending means a change. So that your expectations, you can start to set yourself up for no clinging right from the get-go of a whole operation. Like right at the beginning of April, if you come into April and you are just feeling your oats and you're going, this is my month, let's say, just as a conversational, you can also at the same time say, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to be willing and able to let go every step of the way. And if you're open, we started out talking about you being open in this month to new things. That's a new thing, to go in with the idea of letting it course through you, an event, a process, an achievement. Let it course through you, leaving behind the residue of its passage, but that you never clung. You never tried to hold on. You just let it flow. That's your reading and your sportscast for the month of April, Leos. I wish you well, and thanks for being here. I'll see you next month. And until then, be well. Love y'all. Bye for now.